right. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining for our latest in security for Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop for our Microsoft Technical Takeoff session. So if you've joined the Windows 365 Ask Microsoft Anything, you might have seen me before. I'm Christian Montoya. I'm a principal PM product manager on the Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 team within the security team, but also focusing on identity and access. So I'm very excited for today, mostly because I want to jump right in. I want to make sure that today's session is useful for you as an administrator, whether you already have Windows 365 or are evaluating Windows 365, so you can see these demos and try them out in your environment so you can feel better about the overall security posture. First, we'll cover Windows 365, how we're strengthening the security from client to cloud for your users and your organization. Then again, the demos, the most important parts, to show you where to find these settings, where to configure them, and then how you can validate them. And then third, might seem weird at first, but we're going to peek into Windows 365 Reserve. So we'll get back to that, but everything, I promise, will be all together, all cohesive, and you'll see why I'm talking about Windows 365 Reserve at the end. So let's jump into the security capabilities. But before we can really dive in, I actually do want to take one quick step back. In terms of the security value and all the features and investments we're making in our Windows 365 product, I want to make sure we understand the landscape around us. And so with the Microsoft Digital Defense Report 2024 and the same report in 2025, there's reports of over 600 million identity attacks per day, with more than 99% of them being password-based. 28% of attacks are from phishing or social engineering. So really a wide variety of ways that bad actors are trying to get access, inadvertent access into your environment. And third is just something for ourselves, for Microsoft, but also for you as an organization to be aware of, are emerging threats. We get the benefits of AI and quantum computing, and we try to use them to be more productive for our own organizations and for our products. But we also have to be cognizant that bad actors also have access to the same technology. So we just have to be aware of it, and we as Microsoft as well, in terms of building features and solutions that leverage these technologies, but also help reduce any threats from them. So with that being said, let's go to Windows 365 and strengthening security from the client to the cloud. And what you'll see here on the left-hand side is different layers of the stack that Windows 365 and all of our feature investments help at different levels. And through the different levels, you can add the protections where you have them and actually really strengthen the solution you have for your users in your organization. So Windows 365, what is it? If you're unfamiliar with it, it's a SaaS license-based offering where you can assign a license, and Windows 365 Enterprise license, to a user. And then a cloud PC gets created, a Windows experience in the cloud. And your users can access their cloud PC from anywhere on any device. What's really awesome about this product is this is still just Windows 11 Enterprise that your users are connecting to and using. And so you likely already have Windows devices that you're managing for your organization, albeit maybe desktops and laptops, but now you can extend those similar controls all the way to your cloud PCs. And so this actually will be a theme that I keep harping on, is that consistency of manageability for you, and that it's not, hopefully it's not as daunting to then have cloud PCs in your environment and manage those like the rest of your Windows device estate. Again, what's really cool about these cloud PCs is they're not just Windows machines that happen to be in the cloud. We really get to leverage the power of the cloud. So built into the product are various recovery, resiliency, and continuity features. And you'll see those as we get to it, but it really makes this end-to-end solution powerful and a reliable Windows environment for your users. Like I mentioned, these cloud PCs you can access from anywhere on any device, and you do that through the Windows app. We have the Windows app on the major platforms. So we have the app on Windows, on macOS, iOS, and Android. And if you don't have one of those major platforms, that's also totally fine. You can access the Windows app in the browser. So really, any device, anywhere. but also you can access the Cloud PC directly from our first Cloud PC device, which is the Windows 365 link. It's that little square between those two monitors there. The Windows 365 link is that first Cloud PC device that is purpose built for users to sign in to the device and then connect to the Cloud PC. That's it. This Windows 365 link is built with security in mind. Like I mentioned, its only purpose is to sign in the user and connect them to the Cloud PC, and that's it. So there's no data being stored locally. All of the various security measures that we bring into Windows on this device are enabled by default, can't be turned off. It has a TPM 2.0 chip. It has virtualization-based security, VBS, and hypervisor protected code integrity, HVCI, enabled by default and can't turn off. It leverages Secure Boot and also has BitLocker with the same recovery process that you'd be used to. So all of these built in as just part of the device and operating system. And then lastly, again, you sign in and get connected. Well, you have two options to sign in, both being passwordless. You can use a security key if you already have security devices that are FIDO compliant and you've already set up passkeys in your organization. Or you can do web sign-in, and as long as you've already configured your Entra organization, you have different passwordless options. It could be the number matching, it could be requests. However you set up passwordless authentication for your organization, your users will be able to complete that authentication and then get connected directly to their Cloud PC. So this Windows 365 link, again, is the first Cloud PC device dedicated to connecting users to the Cloud PC. And again, on the left-hand side, this is our first step in this multi-layer approach to security. So this is at the hardware level. Now, if we take one step up, we can look at the OS. So I said I was going to harp on this. Intune is an amazing tool to manage all of your Windows devices, including these Cloud PCs, because again, these Cloud PCs are running Windows 11 Enterprise, just like the rest of the standard Windows devices in your organization. Now, again, I mentioned the resiliency of Cloud PCs. Because they're in the cloud, there's many things that we as a service can provide for you and your users to feel that it's resilient and reliable, one of which is the point-in-time restore. So by default, the Windows 365 service will take incremental snapshots of users' Cloud PCs. So that way it's available for you to be able to restore that Cloud PC in the case of any event of that Cloud PC not being reachable or bootable. So whether it was a faulty driver update, whether it was a faulty app update, or maybe a Windows update, unfortunately, for any of those reasons, you have a reliable backup to bring that Cloud PC to a previous point in time. And not just that, you as the admin can configure your own custom intervals. So if you do have users maybe with more time sensitive or just timely workloads, you can make sure that those snapshots are being taken more regularly for them. And then lastly, with this point in time restore is that you can delegate the restore action. You can delegate this to your users if you want them to be able to do it by yourself. And also if you trust them to be restoring and know the implications, and that can help lower your own help desk tickets. So really powerful stuff. We've seen this action get users back online in previous, larger scale incidents where users couldn't get into their Windows device. They were able to restore it to a previous point in time, get back to the Cloud PC that didn't take the faulty update, and then they're good to go. And admins were able to essentially block that update from going to those Cloud PCs. So really cool and really awesome to see our customers use this to get back up and running right away. And then the third thing that I want to highlight for the OS is one of the new features we announced at Microsoft Ignite 2025, which is our Windows Cloud I/O protection. So specifically our keyboard input protection to guard against keylogging malware and keystroke and DLL injection attacks. So I'm going to show you just a really quick demo in terms of how to find it and where to configure it. So what you'll see here is this is the group policy object. This is where you can find the enable keyboard input protection. It's pretty simple. It has the not configured, enabled, and disabled. And this acts very similar to our screen capture protection, where if the client device, so essentially the client running the Windows app, as long as that Windows app and the client support the input protection, the connection will go through. If not, then the connection won't go through and your user will get an error saying, sorry, your connection doesn't support keyboard input protection, so we can't establish the connection. The other really cool thing about this input protection is it does protect your user's input, keyboard input, all the way from the client to the cloud PC. So it's uninterrupted from when they hit the keyboard strokes to what your cloud PC sees and inputs into the session. So really, really cool. If we take one more step up, we'll look at agents. And you might be wondering, why are we talking about agents with all the security stuff? It's all connected. So at Ignite, just like we announced the input protection, we announced Windows 365 for agents. So Microsoft and a lot of other productivity suites, we've all been investing in AI and building agents. And for Microsoft specifically, allowing you as an organization to build and share agents to be productive in your own workloads, or to provide to partners or customers for their own workloads. And as this is growing, we've seen a larger use case of computer using agents, or CUAs. And so what we have built with Windows 365 is this Windows 365 for Agents platform. And that way, when you do have these computer using agents, you don't have to run them on your own physical device and eat up the same compute power that you're trying to do your other tasks with. Instead, you can launch this computer using agent by using the Windows 365 platform and spinning up a cloud PC for that agent to do its work. Again, probably the third time. With these cloud PCs, this is the same Windows platform from your physical device to a user's cloud PC to a CUA's cloud PC. You can have that same reliability, that all the security policies that you're pushing for these devices are consistent, and there's going to be much less variance for you. So it's hopefully more manageable for you to learn the CUAs, but then know that you can run them on cloud PCs for them. And then just as part of the Windows 365 for Agents, as part of the Microsoft Agent platform, we're building the same enterprise-grade controls of logging, observability, and other security that's just built in. If we go to apps, one thing I'm really excited about is all the great work that Microsoft Intune has done in their mobile application management, the MAM offering. Being able to apply security controls to enabled apps, in this case the Windows app, enabling controls in the Windows app when it's running on devices that your organization doesn't manage. So whether it's a user's personal device or whether it's a device that's managed through a different organization. With MAM, we have this offering for iOS and Android, and it has a lot of security controls, one of which is screen capture protection. But I also want to highlight that in our own remoting protocol with our own development in Windows, we also support a native screen capture protection with our development with Windows app. And I want to just show you the value of these two, because MAM and then the native screen capture protection that we had in the product, they used to be separate, but now we're actually bringing those two together, and you can have a really consistent story for protecting and ensuring that users can't perform screen capture actions on their local devices of Cloud PC content. So let me show you what that means. What you see here is a lovely Microsoft Docs page. We love putting our information in documentation, so you can always reference this even after this workshop. So in this first table, this was our screen capture protection that's built into our Windows app in Windows OS. And previously, that iOS, iPadOS line was not applicable. Basically, only our Windows and Mac OS Windows apps were able to establish connections, because when screen capture protection was enabled, because they would also block the screen capture. But now, we've just recently, in the last couple of weeks, added the ability for iOS connections to be established for when screen capture protection is enabled, if you enable the screen capture protection through an iOS MAM application protection policy. So this is super cool, and we're actually really excited to then bring Android into the picture. That way you can apply this setting on the cloud PC and have more consistency and more reliability that your users can connect without taking screenshots of that content. And then the second table that I'll highlight is just if you don't want to apply the settings on the cloud PC, you can still just use MAM as it is. You can ensure that users coming from iOS and Android devices can't take screenshots of their cloud PC session. So there's still a lot of value by itself, but they're better together, and they're going to continue being better together. Now, that was the tables and the concepts. I just want to show you where they are in the Intune portal. This first one is for the OS setting on the cloud PC. So you can create a device configuration policy, choose a settings catalog template, and then we'll go in and create a policy, and we'll find it to enable that screen capture protection applied to the cloud PC. So when you're searching for the setting, you type in screen capture protection. It'll be the one that shows up, remote desktop services, Azure Virtual Desktop. Click that, click the checkbox to enable screen capture protection. And then once you exit out of this sub window, you'll be able to configure it. And there's three options. It's either disabled, you can enable it, which has block screen capture on client, or you can also say block screen capture on client and server. So whichever configuration you want, this is how you set it on the cloud PC. Now, here are the steps on how you would set it up for MAM. Again, that second table. Again, this is MAM, so this is in the app section. You create an app protection policy. And in this case, again, it's the Windows app. So we'll select the public apps, select Windows app. Again, we'll show iOS because, again, this is the one that we have support for the integration. And once you go to the data protection page, there's an option for screen capture. And that's where you'll have the ability to select allow or block. So right here, screen capture, you can either allow it or block it. And then you can proceed with the rest of the MAM policy as you'd like. So really awesome stuff, a really great way to protect your organization data when users are connecting from their devices. One more step up this chain is the user identity. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this, in the landscape of security, many of the bad actors are trying to breach into organizations and get their data, mostly through identities and passwords. And so what we want to highlight, and what's really core to how Windows 365 operates, is that our identity protection system is all through Microsoft Entra. Entra continues to innovate in this space. They have built-in identity protection. Microsoft Entra has passkeys and biometrics and continues to innovate on those, add new methods of authentication that aren't based on passwords, so it's more secure. You can manage all of the various controls and features in the Microsoft Entra portal, whether it be conditional access. You can do different things with authentication context. So just so much investment is going into Microsoft Entra, and we get to leverage that. And one of those features that we get to leverage and we were able to integrate with was external identities. And we announced the GA of this at Ignite 2025 in November. And what this does is allows you to have a much more simplified user management experience if you need to collaborate or invite external users outside your organization to review work, do work, contractors, etc. No longer do you need to create a brand new account for them. Instead, you just invite them into the organization and share the resources that they need to access to be productive and get their work complete. So I want to just take a quick second to show you what that looks like, how you would actually invite that user, and then show you what that user experience is. So here I'm in the Microsoft Intune portal. The external identities feature is just part of the user workflow in Intune and in Microsoft Entra. To invite a user, you would go through the new user flow, but instead we've already invited this user named Cameron. So we're going to just search for Cameron. We'll see that Cameron Baker identities is external Azure AD. It's a guest, so we know that Cameron is outside of our organization, they're invited in, and the B2B invitation is pending acceptance. So Cameron would then go to the Windows Cloud at Microsoft and search for our tenant. And in this way, Cameron would be logging in to access resources from our organization. Cameron can then accept and say, yes, they invited me. I'd like to opt in and have access to those resources. And then in the Windows app, you see all the resources like if you were a regular user. You can provide cloud PCs for them, and Cameron can log in by hitting connect. And so at the end of the day, once you accept that invitation, the workflow does not look that different. So it's really cool how seamless it is to access as an external identity. And then one cool thing as well with external identities is, again, you're probably working with organizations that you're familiar with. However, you don't necessarily have to just trust the conditional access that the other organization has configured. You can also require that users from other external identities, so users from other organizations, that they do set up conditional access or MFA for your tenant specifically. So there's just so many different controls, and we're just, again, integrating with Entra ID's external identity feature to make that collaboration easier for everyone involved, really. And then the last piece of the stack is the access. And so all of these features and all of these integrations, what we're really trying to provide is a way for you as an organization to provide a secure Windows experience, regardless of what device users are coming from, and especially with BYOD. That way you don't have to ship your users managed devices in order to have them be productive and do their work. They could be using their own devices, or again, if it's a partner or a contractor, using the devices that their organization has already assigned them, but providing them secure access into your organization. So again, there's lots of different controls with things we had shown. There's also Microsoft Entra conditional access for all the conditional access policies like phish resistant auth and 2FA, and also lots of different ways to control data loss protection and ensure that data can't get captured or can't leave your environment. And so what this looks like in practice is not just saying, okay, that personal device just has blanket access to all the organization data and apps. Instead, you can secure that access by ensuring that the personal device meets the proper health checks, connects through Windows 365 to the cloud PC, and then the cloud PC being a device that you do manage, that you can push policies, that cloud PC is really how the user is going to be productive and get access to all the data they need to achieve the business outcomes. And so again, with some of the levers we talked about today, but also there's more ways to add protections throughout the process. We did at Microsoft Ignite 2025 release this Securing Your BYOD Strategy with Windows 365 ebook, which you can take a look after the session. You can find it at ak.ms/W365 BYOD ebook. So you can take a look and just see the other ways that you can provide these cloud PCs to BYOD users with BYOD devices. And then one last look on the data protection. Again, these are ways to control which data can come in or out of the cloud PCs. In the Intune portal, you can manage different ways that users interact with their cloud PC session, and one of those is clipboard redirection. And one really cool thing you can do is actually not just allow it all up, but you can actually choose which way users can copy and paste. So whether you're more concerned about users seeing data in the cloud PC and then taking it out of your data boundary, or if you're more concerned about data maybe potentially coming into the environment, you can have that granularity. So here's just where you can set up those policies and you assign it to the cloud PCs, but also from the end user side, we'll see the before and after, and we'll show how that granular control shows up for the user. So on the left-hand side is the Windows app, and the user will be connecting to their cloud PC. In this case, we applied the policy that no data from the cloud PC can leave the cloud PC, but you can bring data in. So in this case, two different sentences, you'll see Notepad on the right. On the left-hand side, I'm going to copy this data and try to paste it to my local device. So I'll copy here, I'll try to paste it. However, paste doesn't appear because we actually blocked that operation. However, let's try the inverse. This one should be allowed. So I should be able to copy data here and then paste it into my session. So when I do that, you'll see the paste option is there, and you'll see that the sentence actually does carry over. So this is just a simpler example, but shows you some of the more granularity you have in terms of protecting data in your organization or just for the user coming in and out of their connection. And so for this last piece, we're going to touch up on Windows 365 Reserve. I mentioned at the very top that we'd be here, and you still might be wondering, how does this all piece together? Throughout the session, hopefully you've heard me harp on Intune, managing Windows devices, and cloud PCs are no different, and we had the Windows 365 for agents. And so there is this consistency of managing Windows devices that as you onboard maybe some users, some specific workflows and scenarios, and you provide them with cloud PCs, and that's their daily driver, that's the validation that you can manage all these Windows devices at scale. But that might not be all your users. There still are going to be users that might have their own devices, or maybe devices you've already shipped them, that are still in year 3 of their 5-year life cycle. But what if for some reason that device does fail? Or maybe your user spills coffee on the device and it just becomes inoperable. And this is where Windows 365 Reserve comes in, because you can assign these licenses to users and basically have this cloud PC ready to go and ready to be enabled, essentially in that emergency for that short-term access. So for that user whose device does actually just stop working, on another device, they can go to the Windows app. If you've set this up, they can activate their Reserve Cloud PC and then connect and do work uninterrupted while you work with them to find their long-term solution, whether it's a new device or whether it's a full cloud PC and they're going to now have their primary workload be done on a cloud PC. So by doing all that management and managing all these Windows 11 devices at scale, you hopefully have that consistent manageability. You have these Reserve Cloud PCs essentially just ready to go, and you can use this as a ready-to-go solution should your user need that just-in-time access. So I just want to say thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I love talking about security, so if you have any follow-ups, we'd love to hear it. But otherwise, just hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions at this Microsoft Technical Takeoff. Thank you.